What if Amazon, a company that holds over 38% of the US online retail market share, decides to change its supply chain? In the report, they aim to optimize delivery speed in major cities by eliminating transfer warehouses in multiple states. But in reality, the goods arrived later and were more expensive. And worst of all, the small businesses around us are disappearing every day. Main Street shops closing without anyone caring. If this trend continues, you'll see over 6,000 local stores disappear in the next 2 years alone, according to retail industry estimates. Think about your town. No shops, no jobs, no choices, just relying on a giant to decide everything. In this video, we'll go through the 10 states that were affected after Amazon changed its supply chain. Numbers don't lie, but sometimes it startles you so much that you can't sit still. And by the end of the video, there will be a detail about Amazon that you've probably never heard before, and it will make you rethink the entire picture. This is an analysis, not financial advice. The goal is to help us gain a deeper understanding of the real changes happening in America today, not attacking or calling for a boycott of any individual or organization. Let's get started. According to the logistics industry report, the volume of goods passing through Allentown warehouses decreased by 23% in just 18 months. 23% for a state that once prided itself on being the artery for goods across America is something to ponder. Pennsylvania was once the heart of the delivery network. Allentown, Hazleton, Harrisburg, names familiar to any truck driver on I-78. But now, traffic is being drawn toward newly emerging regional hubs near Atlanta, Dallas, and Phoenix. The national sizes here are gradually becoming redundant. The reason few people talk about? Amazon is restructuring its supply chain, eliminating national hubs in favor of a localized regional model. It sounds effective, but the reality is, Pennsylvania is out of the game. Why? The central northeast location is now considered expensive. Land is costly, taxes are high, and it's not close to any of the Amazon super cities. They optimized every cent for shareholders, while those who used to work 12-hour night shifts in the warehouse now have to file for unemployment benefits. What do you think the impact will be? Try asking a former warehouse employee in Bethlehem. He shared, "I used to make $62,000 a year, which was enough to cover my mortgage and send my 2 children to college. Now I drive Uber, and I'm barely making half of that." It's not just one person's story. That's the story of thousands of Pennsylvania families. The summer BBQ tables are missing a few dishes this year, simply because wallets are tighter. Ironically, Pennsylvania is still called the Keystone State, the keystone of America. But that stone is being rejected by the very system that once relied on it. And no, Amazon didn't issue a press release about this move. They only said they were optimizing the network to serve customers. Which customer? Certainly not people like that difficult employee. If Pennsylvania is cut off, the next state we're about to mention is like being gutted, and you'll definitely want to know why. It's hard to believe that a state located between the 2 most vibrant urban centers in the US, New York and Boston, is showing signs of decline. Connecticut once boasted small towns where family-owned stores were the heart of the community. The grocery store in Norwalk, the hardware store in Middletown, the old bookstore in New Haven. But now, no customers. It's not because the people left. And that's because Amazon trucks flood I-95 every night, carrying goods from New York and Massachusetts, and delivering them right to your doorstep in just a few hours. Perhaps you think the problem is just that people prefer to shop online, right? But behind that lies a much more thought-provoking story. To put it bluntly, Amazon seems to be ignoring Connecticut. They don't invest in a large warehouse here because they don't need to. With the urban satellite system, They are leveraging the massive centers near the edge of Manhattan and Boston to absorb all the demand. Connecticut becomes a buffer zone. Guests are served here, but what about tax revenue, jobs, and opportunities? They all flowed toward the two giants beside them. What is the impact? Let the owner of a family grocery store in Hartford share. Old customers told me straight up that they buy online, it's faster and cheaper. And then she sadly sold the shop, and the house behind the shop is now for sale. The once bustling neighborhoods now have more for lease signs in their windows than open signs. Ironically, Connecticut is paying the price for its very location, which is considered prime. You know you've lost when your neighbor wins for you. Residents are still shopping and spending money, just not within their own community anymore. And when the money leaves, trust follows. If Connecticut is caught between a rock and a hard place, Georgia, once hailed as a new logistics hub, is being impacted by its own speed. And the story there is even more terrifying. Atlanta, midnight. Amazon truck convoys stretched out like a river of light on I-285. But just 30 miles away, the shopping mall in McDonough went dark. The parking lot is empty, with only a few glass doors taped with closed signs remaining. Delivery is faster than ever, and that's precisely what's strangling the places that used to live off of it. This phenomenon is not emotional. According to the state's trade report, the number of independent retail stores in Georgia's suburban counties decreased by 18% in just the past 2 years. Traditional warehouse jobs, which once supported tens of thousands of families, plummeted as Amazon closed some peripheral centers to focus on last-mile hubs right in the heart of cities. The rarely mentioned cause? Amazon redesigns its network, minimizing costs by consolidating everything in downtown Atlanta. Instead of distributing goods from suburban warehouses, they drove directly from super warehouses to the city, ignoring the small towns nearby. Why? High population density equals high profit. What about the outer regions? It's simply not effective. Optimal for shareholders, but ultimately for the community. And then, it was none other than the middle-class Americans living in the suburbs, the very group that Georgia once proudly called the backbone. A man who used to be a warehouse manager in Stockbridge shared, "I think I'm doing okay. Salary is $55,000 per year, with insurance, enough to support my wife and retirement. Now I work as a night security guard, and I don't have the energy to take care of the backyard garden anymore." Sadly, speed is praised as a modern convenience. But in Georgia, that pace is killing what once made this place vibrant. Jobs, shops, and even faith in the American dream at the dinner table. And if Georgia is facing a recession due to its overly rapid growth, the next state we'll talk about, Colorado, is suffering from being too slow. Have you ever been right in the center of the map but felt abandoned? Colorado is living in that paradox. You open a map of the United States and it's neatly situated between the East and West. However, as Amazon redrew the supply chain network, this state was transformed into a void, a true logistics desert. This phenomenon is evident. 2 medium-sized distribution centers in Aurora and Pueblo have closed since early 2024, according to a report by the Colorado Economic Council. Small businesses are reflecting the 15 to 22% increase in shipping costs to Colorado within just 12 months. Goods from California or Texas take an extra 1 to 2 days to reach Denver. Local merchants must pay an additional low-priority zone allocation surcharge, a flowery name that is essentially a hidden tax on buyers in the state. A cause that few people pay attention to? Amazon chose to skip Colorado not just because its population of 5.8 million is smaller than that of the coasts. They want the speed corridors, the easternmost or westernmost routes, where each mile of transportation can be maximally profitable. The mountainous terrain, rising labor costs, and environmental pressures make Colorado a less attractive option. A former warehouse manager in Aurora bitterly said, "Being right in the middle and center means nothing in this profit margin game." Impact on the people? Very realistic, very painful. A family in Grand Junction shared, "We ordered the water filter for $9, shipping fee $2. Now, clean water in the kitchen is almost becoming a luxury item. Retirees living on Social Security have to calculate every order. Should they wait 3 more weeks for free shipping or pay extra and eat instant noodles this month?" This is no longer a matter of convenience. This is a matter of survival in an economy where every cent counts. Ironically, Colorado has the highest mountain peaks in the country, but in the Amazon world, goods don't climb mountains. You can go skiing in Aspen, but try ordering winter tires online. The price will make you fall over. And if Colorado at least has mountains to be proud of, the next state, Maryland, has nothing but being squeezed between big players that are sucking up all the opportunities. "We're just satellites for DC and NJ, said a warehouse manager in Hagerstown, Maryland, a statement that sounded both bitter and familiar. This country used to be an important transit hub, a bridge between north and south, between urban areas and seaports. Now what? Maryland is like a small boat caught between 2 strong currents, Washington, D.C. and New Jersey, and is slowly sinking. 3 mid-level distribution centers around Baltimore have cut 40% of their workforce in 2024, according to a report from the Maryland Labor Department. The small warehouses that once supplied regional chain stores are now abandoned because Amazon and large corporations have shifted to a self-sufficient regional model, focusing only on supercenters in New Jersey and Virginia. This caused goods arriving in Maryland to no longer circulate locally, but instead had to detour through another state before returning. As a result, the average cost of interstate shipping increased by 18%, and delivery times went from 1 day to 3 days. Maryland isn't exactly lacking in infrastructure, but it's too close to the major players. As New Jersey became the main gateway to the Northeast, and Virginia was the hub for both military and commercial logistics, Maryland became an uninvestable point. Companies want to focus capital on massive supercenters rather than spreading it thinly across medium and small warehouses. Maryland was turned into a buffer zone, to be used when needed, but never prioritized. And then, it was the family-owned grocery stores in Frederick themselves that were struggling with higher shipping costs, forcing them to raise prices on every box of milk, every pound of meat. Retirees in Annapolis say, "We have to drive 40 minutes to Virginia to buy generic drugs." Here, the small shops have almost disappeared. It's a hidden tax, an invisible tax that's draining the wallets of the middle class day by day. Ironically, Maryland is located right in the heart of the Northeast trade map, but is now at the center of neglect. You might see containers rumbling along I-95, but they'll just pass you by. And if Maryland is swept away by the logistics current, Florida, the next state on the list, is facing challenges due to its own dizzying speed of consumption. You know Florida for its golden beaches, Disney World, and luxurious resorts. But few see the other side, a consumer paradise cracking from within. Just imagine, one of the most consumer-heavy states in America, but nearly 70% of its goods have to be rerouted from elsewhere. That's right, this third most populous country is not truly self-sufficient. Amazon warehouses in Florida still exist, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, but they are being repurposed. Instead of serving domestic needs, many warehouses have become transfer stations for other markets in the Caribbean and South America. Meanwhile, Amazon's regional mega-hub model focuses on Atlanta and Texas, where rail and transportation infrastructure are better connected. Result: in 2024, logistics costs in Florida increased by 21%, according to the Florida Chamber of Commerce. Delivery is slower, prices are higher, and local supply chains are shrinking. the rarely mentioned reason: Florida is the final bottleneck. Logistics experts call this the dead-end effect. When a state consumes a lot but has little role as a transit point, corporations prioritize sending goods to hubs rather than final destinations. Amazon leverages Florida's purchasing power but doesn't invest proportionally. For them, Florida is an exploitable market, not a platform for growth. Let's hear the story of a family in Orlando. They own an old BBQ shop, a symbol of the American dream on a plate. But now, the cost of importing meat, spices, and charcoal is constantly increasing. The grandfather shared, "We had to raise the price of the BBQ combo by $5 in just 6 months. Regular customers are starting to thin out. Who has money left for weekly BBQs? This is pure middle-class squeeze, when simple pleasures, a BBQ, a family gathering, become a luxury item." While Florida continues to boom with resort construction and the opening of more high-end shopping centers, behind those sales 50% off billboards, in reality, there's a clogged supply chain that makes ordinary people pay more. If Florida is being strangled by its own consumption, then Texas, the next giant state, faces the opposite problem: too strong to need anyone, but also too big to save itself. They used to say, everything in Texas is bigger. Right, but now let's take a deeper look. Amazon's million-square-foot warehouse in Dallas, long lines of trucks in Houston, the bustling port of Galveston. But the small towns? It's fading away. Texas currently has over 30 major Amazon logistics centers, the second most in the United States. But this concentration creates a deadly paradox. Large cities like Dallas, Houston, and Austin are expanding, while rural areas are being left behind. The super-concentrated supply chain makes goods flow faster, but only between supernodes. In towns far from the main highway, delivery is slower and prices are higher. A 2024 report from the Texas Tribune shows that consumer costs in rural Texas increased by 18% in just 2 years, which is higher than the national average. Many economic analysts believe that Texas is trapping itself. When Amazon invested heavily in megahubs, the state also offered significant tax incentives to attract them. But the price: small businesses and local shops cannot compete with the speed and low prices enjoyed by large cities. Communities that once prided themselves on self-reliance are now entirely dependent on logistics giants. And when the supply chain falters, the entire state is thrown into turmoil. A 68-year-old veteran living in West Texas said, "Back in the day, I'd drive 15 minutes to buy everything I needed. Now, either I order online and wait all week, or I drive 2 hours to Midland. And gasoline isn't cheap these days." He gave a wry smile. They say Texas is strong. Yeah, strong. Until the internet goes down. Texas, a symbol of independence and freedom, has become a dependent within the global network it thought it controlled. Immense strength sometimes only hides deep cracks within. If Texas is straining in an oversized shirt, the next state, Ohio, is a story of a rust belt whose industrial heart is failing, as both manufacturing and retail are being drained. Imagine a heart that has been beating for over a century. From Youngstown Steel to Akron Tires, from Cleveland's family-owned shops to Columbus supermarkets. Now, that heartbeat grew weaker, and it seemed like Amazon had just added another knot. Ohio was once a key transportation hub for the United States. Nearly half of the US population lived within 500 miles of Columbus. But instead of turning that advantage into vitality, Ohio is witnessing a quiet bleeding out. According to the Ohio Commerce 2024 report, 30% of traditional warehouses have closed or downsized in the past 3 years, largely because Amazon's massive fulfillment centers have sprung up around the borders. Indiana, Kentucky, rather than within Ohio itself. This causes goods to pass through Ohio. while profits and jobs go elsewhere. The reason few people talk about: outdated infrastructure system. While neighboring states upgrade their railroads and highways to attract investment, Ohio is still struggling with deteriorating bridges and rising maintenance costs. Amazon didn't choose Ohio as a major hub because the waiting costs were too high. Thus, Ohio became the gas station on the highway. Millions of packages passed through, but only stopped long enough to refuel. For the middle class, this is a hidden tax. Ask Mike, a 52-year-old assembly line worker who used to work at the Dayton packing plant. That factory closed last year. Mike drives Uber, has an unstable income, his elderly mother's medical bills are increasing, and he says, "I see Amazon trucks every place, but my wallet's empty." They call this the future of logistics. For me, it's just work history. Bitter irony, Ohio used to be the heart of it all, a slogan on license plates. Now, it's literally true. Just a connecting path from one place to another. A heart drained to nourish the rest. If Ohio is losing its rhythm, the next state, Illinois, is like a healthy body, but one that is being silently eaten away from within by taxes, policies, and logistical dependence. From a distance, Illinois looks strong. Chicago, America's transportation hub, home to O'Hare, a dense railroad network, and highways connecting in all directions. But as you get closer, you'll see the foundation sinking, slowly, steadily, and dangerously. Phenomenon. Illinois has over 1,500 logistics facilities, 200 of which belong to Amazon. But this is not a success story. This is a story about deadly dependence. As Amazon adjusted its supply chain in 2023, prioritizing small, flexible centers over fixed, super warehouses, Illinois lost nearly 12,000 logistics jobs in just 18 months, according to a report by the Illinois Economic Council. Warehouses in Joliet and Elgin are shrinking, leaving industrial parks empty, once bustling, now overgrown with weeds taller than the for lease signs. The reason few people talk about? Costs and policies, high property taxes, rising labor costs, and deteriorating infrastructure with slow improvement. For Amazon, Illinois is a convenient bag, collect and distribute. But what about the long-term operating costs? It's not worth it. So new centers sprang up in Wisconsin and Indiana, where it was cheaper and easier to live. Illinois has been turned into a transit point. Money passes through, opportunities are lost. Impact? For the people, this is a middle-class squeeze. Sarah, 44, who used to be a night shift manager at the Joliet warehouse, now has to work 2 part-time jobs, one at Target and one at a bakery near her home, just to pay the electric bill and her son's student loan. They said technology would help us work less and earn more. I find myself doing more and earning less. And there's no time left to have dinner with family, she shared. The irony is that Illinois still promotes itself as America's crossroads. But a crossroads with no shops, no customers, no one stopping, just trucks going straight. If Illinois is the giant on quicksand, then the final state, California, is a monument to technology, but is also discovering that even gold can rust in the giant's hands. Imagine California, the birthplace of innovation, Silicon Valley, is collapsing under the very machine it helped create. A bitter paradox. The birthplace of e-commerce is now being impacted by it. Phenomenon. California has over 40 million people, making it a huge consumer market. Amazon once built over 35 distribution centers here, transforming the inland empire into a superhighway of goods. But since 2022, reports indicate that over 15% of warehouses have reduced operations or closed. Labor, land, tax costs, and environmental policy pressures are causing Amazon to reduce its direct presence. Orders are still flooding California, but they're being processed in Nevada, Arizona, and even Texas. Jobs, corporate taxes, flowing away like water through your fingers. The reason few people talk about? California's own complacency. This country believes that its size and purchasing power will keep all the big players in place. But for Amazon, user data and the online marketplace are more important than warehouse location. California became a huge consumer market, but was no longer profitable for itself. When technology allows for remote operation, geographical advantages become a cost burden. People are clearly feeling the effects. A delivery driver in Riverside said, "I used to make enough to pay my mortgage and support my 2 children through college. Now, I drive for Uber Eats 10 hours a day, and I'm still struggling to pay for gas." The industrial zones that once shone brightly at night are now pitch black. The American dream at the dinner table in California being eaten away by each electricity bill, each meal out being cut off. California still boasts of being the economic engine of the United States. But an engine without wheels is just a stationary block of iron. And if even California, the wealthiest and most innovative state, couldn't escape this vortex, the ultimate question for the entire country is there any state strong enough to withstand the Amazon whirlwind? We've just passed through 10 states, 10 slices of a crumbling picture. This isn't just a story about Amazon. This is the story of a massive consumer economy that is cutting off its own local blood supply. The question is, what do you see in the future of America? A country where everything arrives at your doorstep in 2 hours, but the main street is devoid of shops, jobs, and community pride. Or a United States that dares to ask, what are we sacrificing for this convenience? Please share your thoughts below. Are you seeing this happening in your city? What do you think the US should do, or is it too late? If you want to delve deeper into lesser told stories about economics, politics, and the real impact on your daily life, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We will continue to delve deeper without embellishing or avoiding. This video is based on public data, reports from reputable sources, and independent analysis. We are not accusing individuals, nor are we promoting hatred. We simply aim to provide information so you can form your own perspective. Because, as an old saying goes, a democracy only exists when its citizens constantly question. And today's question, perhaps the most important one, do we still have the courage to save our own communities?